it didn't make sense. It was all kind of people popping out the woodworks, calling themselves obedient. After a while, they said, no structure. It's a structureless, then they will soon fizzle out. And then you guys started with the rallies. And then the rallies snowballed, began to spring up all over the country. They say, oh, it's an Igbo thing. Soon you began to see rallies in the east, in the north, in the west, Lagos, everywhere. Rallies began to spring up. But this does not define the movement. What is the obedient movement? So, what is a movement? A movement is essentially a group of people who have coalesced behind a particular set of ideas. So you can only define a movement by the ideas that it propagates, the ideals that the movement holds there. That means a collection of people have common ideas as to what they want, and it is these ideas and ideals behind which they will coalesce. But that is not enough. Not when it is a movement that considers itself revolutionary. Because I am not part of any movement that is not revolutionary. I felt the pulse of the people who were calling themselves the obedience. And what did I find? They want a different Nigeria. It was captured behind simple ideals, simple small sentences, from consumption to production. How do you move from consumption that saw over 1,000 people going for a conference that saw an unqualified person labeled as the chief scientist of the Federation, going for a jamboree? That is consumption. To move that mindset to production, you probably see not more than 3 or 4 people going for that conference. Yeah, not because it's not important, because there was no need for the jamboree. If they would, look, the National Library remains unbuilt in Abuja, but they are budgeting billions to build a house, billions to build a house for the vice president. Have the other ones been homeless? That is consumption. Those are the kind of ideas behind which the movement coalesced. Now, movement does not exist in a vacuum. See, NEPA did their thing. The reality of living in a country where it is more important for men to buy fleets of bulletproof cars than to improve the security of everybody living in the country. The Nigeria in which we are finding ourselves today, the one in which we live today, is one that does not have space or room for the idea of citizenship. It has no space for the idea of the rule of law. It has no space for the idea of equality. The audacity of the obedient movement is that all those who have been disadvantaged by Nigeria across the length and breadth of Nigeria found themselves. They found themselves not necessarily because they were all lost, but because you cannot build anything, you cannot even gain a revolution if you are incapable of building coalitions. The obedient movement is essentially a coalition of those who have been marginalized by Nigeria, those who have in one way or the other been victimized by Nigeria, whether those be Hausa, whether those be Yoruba, those who aspire for a better country, one that is hinged to reason, that understands the need to plan for a future for the children Those are the people that came together and started calling themselves the obedient. There is a quote by Kwame Nkrumah, and I posted it this morning. And what he says is very simple. He says revolutions are brought about by men who think as men of action and act as men of thought. When NSAS happened, we could take to the streets, we could encourage anarchy, but to what end? Systems such as evil as the one in which we live is actually happy when you engage it with violence, because engaging it with violence means that you never get to deal with it at the level of reasoning, which is what it prefers not to do. It will prefer that you carried cordials, go onto the street, burn tires, it sends in the mindless soldiers, the same sort that they had killing people at the Lekki toll gate and all over Nigeria, in Obigbo, in Kafanchan. The Shiites that are killed almost like they are flies simply because their humanity is discounted on account of sectarian differences. Just like the humanity of different ethnicities are discounted on account of ethnic differences or because they're simply following the orders. The humanity of persons are discounted on the order of the state by persons who are sworn to protect those who are meant to be citizens. So, after MSAS, we realized that the only way to have this change peacefully, at least that's what the system told us, go and vote. If we're a democracy, our votes should make the difference. Those who believe that their party is right should be willing to subject themselves to the public whom they pretend to serve. So, we went ahead, encouraged the people to register to vote. We were preserving the idea of citizenship, the same one that was behind NSAS, the same audacity. Look, let's be clear about something. Without the efforts of people who have gone before, none of us would be. Without Yele Sowore, and I'm coming to that, the Nigerian state need to let go of Yele Sowore. Without Yele Sowore, there wouldn't have been an NSAS. And my reasons are simple. It took the organization of the Revolution Now movement acting in concert, and this is the thing that is key, acting in concert with other elements of Nigerians, both those who agree with militant actions and those who do not. I don't. They do. Militant actions in the sense of frontal confrontation with the state, not violent. So those who would have flinched at the idea of voting for the Igbo man recognize that looking at the Igbo man in Nigeria today is looking at themselves, looking in the mirror, because every affliction that once assailed only one now assails all. You who understands that your purpose is to change this space for your children and to preserve it for future generations, you are the ones who say you are a member of the obedient movement. You have no guns to carry. You're not throwing stones. You need to win their hearts and mind. Yes, some have no heart and some are mindless. But do your own bit. And don't spread hatred. Don't join them. They will provoke you. Don't join them. Be sensitive to their ignorance. Do not let them lead you into validating their hatred. They say you are rude. We're not rude, we're forthright. Be forthright in making your demands.